"Reginald," said Frank, spooked out, "you're walking again." "And your leg is healed," Joey added. Staring in confusion, Reginald looked down at his feet, and suddenly his eyes went wide with amazement. He gave a shout and jumped for joy with his hands in the air. "It's a miracle! I feel so full of energy!" Whooping for joy, Reginald pranced around the room as cheerful as a kid on Christmas morning, unknowingly doing karate kicks in the air as he did so. By this point, everybody was completely spooked. James was so white in the face that he looked as if he were about to lose consciousness again any second. "Now Reg has got superpowers too," said Gary in amazement. "Dudes, what's happened to all of us?" Everybody turned to Reginald, expecting an answer from him. Realizing this, Reginald tried to think for a moment or two as he tried to fathom the situation. "I think I may have a theory about what happened last night," he said slowly. "I believe we were all somehow affected by the glowing meteor when it exploded. The meteor must have passed through some radiation belt of some kind, which resulted in it glowing so mysteriously. Upon contact with said meteor and the subsequent explosion, it somehow granted us, how do those American comics put it, superpowers." "We all got a blast of radiation?" asked Frank. "Yes, I believe so," replied Reginald. "And like I said, we now have superpowers." The others stared and looked at each other in shock, amazement, and wonder. While they were doing so, Eddie, Peter, and Clara snuck out of Carly's room and hid behind a wall near the living room. "Since when did James and Carly start smoking cigars?" Peter whispered curiously. "Shh! They'll hear us," whispered Eddie. The three of them peeked out and saw the 9 friends looking at each other in stunned silence. Clara then noticed James's muscular frame, and despite the fact that he was only in his underwear, her face blushed deeply and an awestruck smile spread across her face. Realizing who and what she was staring at, Eddie and Peter disgustedly pulled her behind the wall so no one could see them. At last James broke the silence once he calmed down and composed himself. "All right, let's get this straight," he said slowly. "Richard has super speed, Catherine has super strength, Christiane has ice and snow powers, Frank has some magnetic power to lift heavy objects without even touching them, Gary can become invisible, Joey gives off sonic wave belches, Pedro can stretch his body to epic proportions, and Reginald's leg not only healed quicker than the doctor said, but now he can do kung fu flawlessly. And you just turned orange?" Carly suddenly burst out laughing. "Oh my God, how lame is that?" "It's not lame," said James indignantly. It's probably a result of all the orange juice I've been drinking lately that my cells now store an excessive amount of vitamin C." Just then Joey came up close to James and sniffed his arm, disturbing the others. "He does have a very nice fruity aroma about him," said Joey cheekily. James backed away from Joey, looking disgusted. Everybody couldn't help but laugh at James and at Joey's comments, but it was also true. Rather than smelling like body odor, deodorant, or cigar smoke, James smelled like a combination of oranges, apples, pears, and peaches. Understandably, James did not find this amusing as he glared and growled at the others through gritted teeth and clenched fists. As he did so, James's eyes suddenly glowed red for a split second before going back to their normal chocolate brown. Of course, without looking in a mirror, James didn't notice this, but the others did, and it spooked them so much that they immediately stopped laughing and stared at James. James in turn felt his anger fading as he reacted to the others' reactions. Richard and Christy each put a comforting arm around James's shoulders. "We're sorry, Jimmy," said Richard sheepishly. "It's just, admittingly, you do look a little silly this way." "Don't feel left out, Sugar Plum," added Christy soothingly. "You probably do have a superpower that simply isn't fully developed yet, which is a little surprising considering James was standing closest to the meteor before the explosion," said Frank, still a little uneasy. "You'd think he would have the most developed power by having the closest contact. I don't know if that's politically correct or logical, said Reginald thoughtfully. What I am wondering, though, is if all of our powers are not fully developed yet. As a matter of fact, I'm wondering if I can master the art of Taekwondo as well as Kung Fu. Yeah, said Joey brightly. Maybe some of us even have the power to fly like Peter Pan. In fact, Joey climbed onto a chair and jumped off while flapping his wings. However, he did not have the ability to fly and fell down. Luckily, Joey wasn't hurt, as his fall was cushioned by landing on the couch nearby. The others laughed, and even Joey joined in as he unsuccessfully tried to pick himself up. James, attempting to contain his laughter, helped Joey to his feet. Thanks, he said. Don't mention it, replied James. And to the others, he said, You know, guys, Reggie's right. With the new superpowers we've been endowed with, who knows the possibilities of what we can do? Yeah, Richard chimed in excitedly. We could go out there and kick bad guys' asses, save the people, and attack Tokyo. He zipped out of the lookout, but came back a moment later, holding a samurai sword, initially startling the others. What did I miss? Richie's right, said James, except of course for the part about attacking Tokyo. Richard smiled in embarrassment. If we all have superpowers now, said James boldly, then this could be what we can dedicate our lives to, helping the people and saving the day. I don't know if it was his intention, but Arthur Gamblethorpe always thought we worked great together as a team at Pyramid Lake at Camp Gamblethorpe, whether it was as campers, junior counselors, or anything else we did. But maybe he thought we would all be together after our time at camp. After all, he encouraged us to be better people, rely on each other, and figure out our strengths and overcome our weaknesses. He, along with the rest of his family, have sought out to help people, especially children. After all, each generation teaches the next, and now it's our turn to show this world a thing or two. As a superhero team, there's no limit to what we can do together. What do you guys think of that? The cheers that followed were so loud it was almost deafening. Suddenly, the whole house was filled with flashing lights, causing them to shield their eyes. When the flashing lights disappeared, a glowing light was coming from down the hall and leading to the garage. James went to investigate, and the others followed. They were so intent to find out what was going on that they didn't so much as glance at Eddie, Peter, and Clara hiding in an open hallway. Careful not to make a sound, the 3 kids followed the 9 young adults. As it turns out, the glowing was coming from the garage, but it was not coming from the garage, but it was coming from a room next to the garage. This room was a game room, complete with a pool table, ping-pong table, a ping-ball machine, and even 2 vending machines, one for snacks and one for beverages. Everything looked normal when James and the others entered the room, but when they looked towards the wall, there were 9 glass cylinder tubes with large lights inside shining down on multicolored outfits. They looked a lot like superhero costumes. As the friends gathered around in amazement, the glow disappeared and the light in the room returned to normal. Would you look at that, said James with an open-mouthed smile. Superhero costumes, Frank cried. As if by some miracle we've been granted our own superhero costumes. All right, said Joey enthusiastically. I don't believe it, said Christy, shocked. Each costume's primary color is our favorite color. The magenta one is mine, then, Carly proclaimed proudly. Our names are even underneath each of our costumes. Let's try 'em on, dudes and dudettes, said Gary happily. Let's go for it, Richard yelled, happily charging forward. Not caring if they were in each other's presence, everybody took off their pajamas, except James, who had on underwear to begin with, until the boys were in their undergarments and Carly and Christy were only wearing what looked like 2-piece bathing suits. Then as they put on their costumes, what they didn't know was that they were in fact being watched. You see, Eddie and Peter, knowing what was about to happen, ducked down out of sight. Clara, however, couldn't help herself as she stared at James through the window. No wonder Catherine fell for James, said Carly dreamily. Who wouldn't fall for such a hunk with a muscular body like that? Disgusted, Eddie and Peter pulled her down so no one would see her. Within 10 minutes, everybody was in their new superhero costumes. The colors of the outfits were as follows. James's was blue and gold, Carly's was light pink and magenta, Richard's was red and yellow, Christie's was turquoise with blue and purple patches, Frank's was green with blue and orange patches, Gary's was orange and blue, Gary's was gold Joey's was gold and silver, Pedro's was dark green and maroon, and Reginald's was black and brown. Additionally, Christy, Frank, and Reginald were wearing eye masks. Carly and Richard had partial face masks, and James, Gary, and Pedro had full face masks. As for Joey, instead of a face mask or eye mask, he had a heavy helmet on. "As of today," said James, "I shall be known as Macho Man." "I'm Smoking Hot Sweetheart," said Carly. "I'm Flash Richie," said Richard. "I'm Ice Christie," said Christy. "I'm Magnet Man," said Frank. "I'm the Invisible Dude," said Gary. "I'm Sonic Burp Boy," said Joey. "I'm Elastico," said Pedro. "And I'm Kung Fu Reggie," said Reginald. Once everybody was ready, they gathered in a circle as James was about to proclaim a battle cry or some sort of speech. "All right, everybody," James said boldly. "We are officially a mighty superhero team. As of today, we shall make Arthur and Francis proud by continuing to help people, but on a whole new level. We shall bring justice to those who have been wronged and stop every bad guy we face. Who knows what adventures await us beyond that horizon? From this day forth, we shall be known as the Mighty Nine." "The Mighty Nine?" Richard asked. "Well, there's 9 of us, and we would sound more heroic with a short, simple, and snappy, and also easy to remember name." The others murmured in agreement. "Anyways," James continued proudly, "from this day forth we shall be known as the Mighty Nine. Ready, everybody?" Everybody proudly shouted, "The Mighty Nine is on a roll!" With that, they all did their own battle cries and went out the front door. James and Carly made sure the door was locked first, and headed straight towards the city of Reno. Unbeknownst to them, Eddie, Peter, and Clara, now regaining consciousness, went around the house to watch them go. They looked at each other proudly and, laughing cheekily, followed the Mighty Nine off on the adventure of a lifetime. To be continued.